Good evening and welcome to the Gold Ghosts and Guns Hour here on YouTube and Periscope. My name is Tom Luongo. It's Monday, September 24th, 2018. We've got a lot to talk about. And this afternoon, or this evening, or whatever the hell it is, because it's been a long day. Sorry. The things I want to talk about tonight, there's a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. But let's talk about our kind of Schrodinger's deputy attorney general. Rod Rosenstein. Is he fired? Is he resigned? Is he hired? Is he still on the job? Is he just in Dutch with Trump? Who the hell knows? Axios reported earlier in the day that Rosenstein was to go to the White House to tender his resignation in preparation for being fired. Now, this is in response to the New York Times article on Friday, which said that, which reported that apparently in March of 2017, Rosenstein floated the idea of a 25th Amendment challenge against Trump, and that people should wear a wire in order to document the craziness of the Trump White House in order to affect said 25th Amendment challenge. Was it said in jest? Was it real? Who knows? Who cares? The whole thing was a honeypot anyway. It was all designed from the ground up to get Trump to fire Rosenstein before the midterms so the Democrats could cry collusion and obstruction of justice and he's a tyrant and all this stuff. And they're talking about it now. The false report that he's going to be fired was out, and they were already prepared with statements all over the place. I saw Ted Lieu. I saw most of the Twitterati on all the journalists were all like, Trump's firing Rosenstein. This is authoritarianism. This is it's all crazy. They're all gaslit. It's fantastic. It's ridiculous. It's insane. But all this was prepared ahead of time. They fully expected Trump to fly off the friggin' handle and fire him. In the same way that Israel last week expected the Russians to fly off half-cocked and blow up that French frigate that supposedly had shot missiles at their plane. Telling you. They're trying everything. The Democrats and the left and the Soros crowd and Tom Steyer and David Brock of Media Matters and the rest of it, they're all got a plan. And that plan, they're going to run that plan, whether it's working or not, until the day of the midterm elections, because they have a thesis. And that thesis says, do everything that this will work to suppress Republican turnout and enhance Democratic turnout. That's what their thesis is. It's moronic. It's not working. Enthusiasm amongst Trump supporters is at an all-time high coming into the midterm elections. They are, in a word, desperate. And it's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's really, if you want my honest opinion, and I've been doing this for a while now. Remember back in June when Kanye West tweeted out those 7 words that changed everything? Here's your dividend. They know what the numbers are. They know how bad the black numbers are. They know how bad the Hispanic numbers are. They know how relatively good the job market looks. Yeah, we can go into the difference between job openings and actual hires and wage rates and all of this stuff. And it's not as rosy a picture as the headlines make it out to be. I'll be the first one to admit this. But it's a heck of a lot better than it was 2 years ago, and it's a heck of a lot better than it was 4 years ago. So it's just, it speaks of an absolute desperation to keep this narrative running and to do this stuff with Kavanaugh going on. And I love the fact that the left thinks today that Trump's people actually were the ones that floated this bon mot, that floated this idea in order to distract from the Kavanaugh stuff. The latest Kavanaugh allegation. What planet are these people on? It's all the same people doing all of this. They had their script on Friday. And they ran it on Monday when everything opened up again. And then, oops. It's like they're at the point now where they're throwing so much at the wall, it's actually getting in the way of each other. And all it's doing is making everybody look bad. Making everyone in the resistance look bad. I mean, when Bill Maher is telling you you look like a bunch of fucking morons, here's your sign. So, watching this play out is actually almost funny. I'm not in any way, matter, shape, or form angry about any of this. I look at this stuff and I'm just like, I'm at the point now where I'm just, really? Okay. That's really good, guys. Keep running with that. Seriously, keep running with it. And wait for everything to implode on you. And then wake up on election day and go, or the next day and go, how could this have happened? Are you kidding me? Do you ever do anything other than look in the mirror in your own echo chamber and go, oh, wow, I'm so beautiful and I'm so right and I'm so insouciant and I'm so wonderful. It's obvious that Trump is an idiot and I'm so right about everything that all I have to do is scream that on Twitter and magically the world will exist the way I want it to again. Just like in the Disney movies I keep watching. Oops. I was talking with a friend of mine the other night about The Wizard of Oz, of all things. Just bear with me for a second. I think this one will be good. And he brought up the really salient point because he was in high dudgeon last night. He had a whiskey and a cigar in his hand. I didn't. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and I was like just hanging on for dear life. But he brought up The Wizard of Oz. He said, the funny part is that The Wizard of Oz actually ends at the wrong moment. It was a great insight. He said, just think about where we are. We're at the end of The Wizard of Oz. The curtain's been pulled back. It's just some schmuck behind the curtain yelling into a microphone, some smoke and some mirrors. The illusion's been torn back. We can see the code in the Matrix. And we've gone, no, that's enough. But The Wizard of Oz, for 1939 or 1938 or whatever it was, Dorothy goes home. And it was all just a dream. Right? But was it? Because what happened in Oz afterwards? I know there was the movie Return to Oz, which I, by the way, never saw, so I can't comment on it. But what happens in Oz after everybody realizes that the wizard is just some schmuck? So that's where we are now. And that's the part that the movie kind of glossed over. And for 1939, that was that. It was good enough. It was subversive enough for 1939. It was brilliant for 1939. But I mean, the flying monkeys, the Oompa Loompas, or whatever the hell they were, all of it. So it's interesting to think about what that movie would have looked like had there been an actual ending. Because we're living in it right now, guys. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty. All right. I know it's Charlie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Munchkins, Oompa Loompas, whatever. They're all the same. They're all a bunch of midgets. And they all rejects from George Lucas movies. Come on. Let's not kid ourselves. Oh, man. That's going to get me in trouble with YouTube right there. I use the word midget. All right. So, loving this. This is great. Gotta love this. I would like for the Republicans to actually step up and do what they have to do and take the bull by the horns and put the Democrats in their place, but they're not going to. Because they don't actually want Trump to continue being president. They want him gone as much as the Democrats do. So they're going to continue to play this game of, will we, won't we? Oh, we should let her testify. Oh, Kavanaugh, been a bad boy and we have to genuflect and we have to give everybody their... No! Grassley should have went and said that. No. Should have went and said, look, let's vote to confirm, but we'll set up a committee to investigate these allegations, and if there's anything to them and we can prove and they're real and he's obviously not fit for the court, we'll impeach him and we'll bring him back and we'll throw him off the court and we'll get somebody else. Call the Democrats' bluff to find out whether they really actually are serious about stopping this particular person because he's so horrible from getting on the court. Or is it just outrage porn du jour? Because that's what I think it is. That's what anybody with 3 brain cells to rub together to make a spark thinks it is. Call their bluff. Don't keep playing into their hands. But, of course, the GOP loves to play into their hands because that's what they do. That's their job. They're straight out of central casting. They're morons. They're controlled opposition. They're the other wing of the same bird of prey, in the immortal words of Tom Woods. So, who doggy? It's getting fun over here in the United States. Now, in Syria, things are getting serious. Because the Russians have finally formally responded to what the Israelis did the other day. And as much as the Israelis are saying, no, we didn't do it. No, it's your fault. No, we're not going to apologize. Fine, we're not going to apologize. Fuck you. We're putting S-300s in Syria. Fuck you. We're putting S-300s in Syria. But that's a dangerous provocation. You can't do that. Fuck you. Shut up, Netanyahu. Somebody finally put Netanyahu in his place. Everybody was wondering when Putin was going to put Netanyahu in his place. Well, guess what? It just happened. S-300s to Syria mean no more Israeli F-16s flying over Syria and bombing targets at will. Mattis then comes out today and says, we're going to stay in Syria for in order to train local militias or whatever to keep ISIS from coming back again. That's all bullshit, because Bolton's actually telling you what's really going to happen. We're going to stay in Syria for as long as Iran is going to be in Syria, until Trump finally gets tired of it all and tells them all to go fucking scratch and says, nope, bring the troops home. The grand bargain is not going to happen until the Israelis are put in their place. And they just failed in their gambit to start World War III and bring the Americans in, fully armed. And so now we're going to get S-300s. You know, got to remember something, that Putin didn't really want to bring S-300s into Syria. Because you got to remember that at a certain level, he wants to keep their capabilities under wraps for as long as possible. Right? So, but now it's going to be Syrian air defenses upgraded with S-300s, the S-400s covering all Russian assets, and F-16s will stop flying over Syria. I don't know if you guys saw this, but they just posted to Zero Hedge that apparently an Su-35 pilot is posting pictures on Instagram of him getting target lock on an F-22. You know, the most advanced stealth fighter we have. And the guy saying something along the lines of, oh, I need to read this to you because it's really damn funny. Russian Su-35 pilot says he intercepted a U.S. F-22 Raptor over Syria. He said, quote, where is it? This is great. He said, the Russian pilot provided some following commentary with the Post. He's got a picture of the F-22 with target lock on them, saying, the F-22 was arrogant and was punished after a short air battle for which he got fucked. S-300s in Syria means that any airplane in Israeli space is threatened. They can literally shoot over the border and knock down Israeli jets. Yes, that is exactly what it means. I don't know what Israel was thinking, Buck. Buck asks a very salient question, which is the same exact question that Halsey asked the other night when he and I were talking about it last Thursday. What does Israel gain with a world war besides annihilation? It's a very good question. And it's a question predicated on the fact that the people who are actually in charge of Israeli policy at this point, or even U.S. policy, are rational. And at this point, I am not making that assumption. I'm sorry, I'm not. I'd like to, because then I don't understand what actually happened last Monday. Because the Russians certainly didn't shoot down their own plane to blame the Israelis so that they could then turn around and have an excuse to put S-300s in theater. That is not the way the Russians operate. Integrated air defense is bad for everyone. Is bad for the Israelis. And the Russians have been talking for over a year about how much they've been upgrading and integrating the Syrian air defenses into their own, and so that it's all one big system. And they've been testing it steadily but surely, slowly but surely and steadily, all the Syrian air defense crews on S-200s and Panzer S-1s and S-2s, which, by the way, shoot down Tomahawks like fish in a barrel. Not the S-200, the Panzer S-1s and 2s. And yes, William Justice, you make the point. I've made the point over and over again to me and to all of us, and it's the very salient point, which is that nuclear war is bad for business. So it is time for this stuff to end. It is time for the shenanigans to end. 5 days after the Israelis finally admit to the world that they've flown over 200 sorties over Syria, bombing targets at will, then they pull this stunt. Well, Buck, I was assuming that as well because that's what Trump's plan is. Guess what? That's not what everybody else's plan is. I don't believe in any way, manner, shape, or form that Trump was a part of this plan. Are you kidding? Do you really think that this is something that Donald Trump would have green-lighted at all? Notice how he hasn't said anything about any of this. Think about it for a minute. My theory on all of this was that this is, and I still believe this, even though we've heard other stories, that the point of this exercise was to try and get the Russians to mistakenly shoot down a French frigate, and then that would give NATO an Article 5 reason to move into Syria and then force a conflict. And I honestly do not think that anybody felt that on our side and on the Israeli side that the Russians would strike back if the U.S. started to invade, that if we moved in, the Russians would stand down and stand aside. I honestly think that that's what the thinking is at the DOD and on K Street and in the White House. That's what I think. I think John Bolton's insane. Okay? I don't think he's rational. Until I see otherwise, I don't consider John Bolton rational. I don't consider Bibi Netanyahu rational. I don't consider Avigdor Lieberman rational at all. I believe these people are fucking left-brain ideologues. Left-brain dominant fucking ideologues. And that they believe in their own superiority so much, and they believe that to this point the Russians have shown weakness, and we can just keep pressing their weakness. That's what I think. Thornton reminds us that he read the Saker article about how the Jewish fifth column is losing badly in Russia after Israel has total disregard for Russian soldiers. People in Russia do not buy the excuse anymore. I agree with that. I haven't read that Saker article, but I'm sure that I'm not. But I'm not surprised. What Thornton was speaking to at this point is that the I mean, the Saker's over the top about this stuff, calling them all Zionists and Atlantis, fifth columnist and everything else. But there is a real fifth column within the Kremlin that Putin has been dealing with. Okay. Some of whom are Jews. A lot of them are working with Khodorkovsky. Which brings us to Browder and all these other freaking people. Okay. And if today they have lost credibility because of what Israel just did and the way they handled this situation, and showed complete disregard for Russian airmen, saying, it's your own goddamn fault. You shouldn't have been there in the first place. Basically, we have a right to invade Syria whenever we want. Deplorable. I'm not Jewish. I don't necessarily support Israel or am against Israel. I think this is insane what they're doing. I would prefer everybody to stand the fuck down and for peace to reign. The Kremlin fifth column it's not our deep state, but they are of like mind, as it were. Let's not. Yeah, there are a lot of Russian Jews in Israel. Yes. The Russians have already moved S-400s into their own area to cover their own areas. I did not see the second Russian defense presentation, but I saw something early this morning of the timeline. I did not see the actual radar plots. It was absolutely damning. What I saw this morning from either RT or Sputnik was absolutely damning. I cannot speak to who can come up from behind and take down Bibi. That's part of the problem, is that it's like in Russia, there's nobody credible behind Putin. Well, there's nobody credible behind Netanyahu at this point. That's part of the problem. In some ways, that's part of the problem in Germany. There's nobody credible yet behind Merkel. Maybe Horst Seehofer, but not even him. So, yeah, I was busy with other stuff today. I watched some stuff, but I immediately got distracted by Barrack and Randgold merging and other stuff I wanted to get to today. And then the whole thing with the Rosenstein broke. And then, after 8 hours, I was like, I'm fucking done. I'm going to go downstairs and play a game with my wife. And then I got to do my friggin' stream tonight. So I can't work 15 hours a day anymore. I just can't do it. So it drives me nuts. So I'm not surprised. Let me put it this way. If Putin had not said, had not made this move about S-300s, I would be really worried about the future in Syria. I would be really worried that the United States and Israel were going to get everything. We're going to run the table. But I can't see him packing down at this point after everything that's happened. I honestly think deplorable that stop for a second. Halsey does have a good sense for the games that Bibi is playing. I defer to him on a lot of issues. But he asked me the same question last week, and I had to challenge him. I was like, well, then what explanation is there? Because you don't have a good one. So the best one I've got is that they've lost their fucking minds, and that they're so worried that they're going to lose Syria after all this time that it's making them irrational. It's making them crazy. They're reacting badly to the stress and the pressure. And so they come up with this fucking cockamamie plan to kill a bunch of Russians to stop, quote, to supposedly stop Iran from handing Hezbollah an S-300. Yeah, Syria is not winnable. What Israel wants is Iran out of the western part of Syria, but they also want the Assad government gone. And they're not going to give up on that. I mean, you have to understand this. The people who are running this show in Israel are not going to stop. They will never stop until they are forced to stop. Until everyone says, shut up and sit the fuck down. And the only people who can actually make that happen is the United States. Where's Mattis in all this? He's the one saying we're going to be in there well after ISIS is gone because we have to train all the friggin' militia to keep them from coming back. Like, no, you don't. Get the fuck out of there, douchebag. We've got there's plenty of people in Syria that can handle taking care of ISIS. The fucking Russians will hound these people down to the last friggin' man if you let them. Stop protecting those fucking assholes, and so stop protecting them and the shit will end. They'll all die. Because the Russians want them all dead. To a man. You heard that so Thordium says he's heard that the Russians are going to jam all aircraft near the Syrian coast. It looks like they're going to use the big boy jamming, which can disable all communications, radar, and the weapon systems. Right. Otherwise known as the stuff that made the Donald Cook haul ass home back to Bulgaria after making way for Sevastopol during the attempt to take over Crimea back in 2014. Yeah, that story. Yeah, so basically Mattis is telling Erdogan they will train the YPG and the PKK. And apparently somehow the Erdogan is rolling over in Manbij doing joint military drills with the Americans. Why? They're doing it to try and get the Americans to let up on the currency stuff, the economic pain. Well, if that was the case, deplorable, then the Israelis should have apologized. See, deplorable saying that was decided at the divisional/regimental level. It was a tactical play that ended up with Russians dying. It wasn't strategic. Well, that's fine. I get it, but then they should have apologized. And the fact that they refused to apologize, and as a matter of fact, blame the Russians for their own planes getting shot down, there's a word for that in Yiddish. It's called chutzpah. Okay? Israel loses here. And good. They need to. And the neocons have lost their minds. Remember, so North on 60 disagrees with Deplorable, saying that the Israelis showed zero remorse and lied in the face of the Russian Ministry of Defense. That was disgusting and showed that it was premeditated. No, dude, you're doing fine. It's not that you're monopolizing anything. This is a good back and forth, and I'm actually enjoying the conversation. This is good because I don't really have a lot of prepared material. We're a half an hour in. We're now into Q&A. Effectively, now this is a back and forth thing now. So Joanne pipes in. Good evening, Joanne. How are you? Joanne Leon of the Against the Empire podcast is with us tonight, which is very good, and you should all listen to it on a regular basis. I've been a guest on her show a couple of times. So, but that being said, shameless plug for Joanne. Pretty sure the Israeli contingent that went to Moscow lied about the details, and that really pissed the Russians off. You're right. I mean, it's one thing, that publicly you can't say you can't say what needs to be said, that, there's certain things you say diplomatically and there's other things you say behind closed doors. The Israelis have been nothing but confrontational about this the entire time. And there's no 4D chess being played here. There's no deeper game being played here. This was a mistake. It was a bad op. They got what they wanted, which was to blow up a particular target of the Syrian army. And in the process, they shot down a Russian plane. And now the Russians are like, that's it, we're done. Putin is sitting there going, dude, I held off for 2 years not giving Assad S-300s to protect his airspace in deference to you and in deference to keeping the opportunity open for some level of a peace agreement. But you won't listen. You won't stop. There was a fucking deal brokered that would move Iranian troops out of the western half of Syria, and that wasn't good enough for the Israelis. They wanted them out of Syria completely. Like, you're not in any fucking position to negotiate here. What? Because the Americans are going to stay? The Americans are in no position to negotiate here. I mean, these people don't understand that there comes a time and place when it's time to quit, when it's time for the lies and it's time for the bullshit and it's time for all of it to just end. You're not going to get any more than what you've already got. And the harder you fight, the worse you're going to lose. And I've used this metaphor before and I'll use it again. For those of you who don't play the game Go, now I've played the game Go, I am terrible at it. But I understand I understand how to play Go. I just play it like shit. But I also understand how Go is played between masters and apprentices. Okay. Go is all about soft area control. It's the original game of truly area control. What we modern gamers will call area control games, right? But Go is all about soft power. It's all about the implication of power by placing pebbles around the board in particular places, or pieces around the board in particular places, in order to project and imply power without actually having any power. And so when you get to a point when you're the master and you're playing against somebody who's far inferior to you and you're trying to teach them, this game is all about saving, at a certain level, it's all about saving face, because you want your opponent to not be demoralized and to come back and play again and try and improve. And you improve them by continually, not by playing each game to a conclusion to prove that you're going to lose badly, but to say, look, I've got this part of the board, you've got that part of the board. This stuff over here is contested. I'm probably going to win by 7 pieces. Why don't we call it, I win by 7 and let's play again. The master does that in order to allow the other person to save face and to move to the next stage of the game, the negotiation, whatever it is. There's a metaphor here. The person who doesn't understand what's going on forces him to play the game out to its conclusion. Left brain dominated ideologues who have to be proven to be correct or proven to be wrong about everything, guess what? They force the game to its conclusion. Every little fucking move. And they fight and they fight and they fight and they fight and they lose worse. And then they wind up losing by 20, not 7. Because the master was offering a better deal that he was going to actually get. Because the master knew that if he played to the best of his ability, he could wipe this person completely off the board. There's a metaphor here. Russia versus the Israelis and the United States in Syria. Using this metaphor to describe this for over 3 years now. Not just here, but also when I used to work for Newsmax. And you have to understand that this is what is happening. With every twist of the knife, with every stupid provocation, it just gets worse. Netanyahu could have gotten out of here with Assad in power, no S-300s, the ability to fly into Syrian airspace to keep Iran honest and keep Iran out of the western half of Syria. Could have had that deal 3 months ago. Now he's got S-300s and Iran's going to be everywhere and everybody's on the knife's edge and Hezbollah has 10,000 missiles pointed at Israel and can turn it into a parking lot tomorrow. Was this smart? Oh, and they lost face in one of the two major superpowers in the world. That they have fifth column influence. And they lost that as well, as Thornton pointed out to us earlier. So now what? And everybody just has to go along and deal with this freaking problem. No, they don't. At some point, everybody's just going to turn around. Because here's the gig. User 13 makes this point every time when she's here in the chat. She makes this point all the time, and it's so unutterably and unerringly true. Every time Israel does this, they are hurting themselves. And they have to understand, and they know fundamentally, the Israeli government, this era, all know that once the baby boomers are out of power in the United States, that their ability to influence U.S. policy ends because Gen X won't stand for it, because the millennials won't stand for it. They all get this shit. None of them are going to send their kids to die in a foreign war for Israel. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for the bankers either. It's not going to happen for anybody. All of this shit's coming to an end. And everybody who's got power now, the whole Davos crowd, et al., all of them, realize that we're rapidly approaching the point of no return for this phase and this era of U.S. foreign policy, and they don't know how to deal with that loss. They don't know how to deal with it domestically. Kavanaugh, Rosenstein, honeypot, Mueller, Russiagate, the resistance, deplatforming Alex Jones, all of it. Fucking James Woods getting thrown off of Twitter for a freaking sarcastic meme? What the fuck's wrong with these people? Have they no sense of any... They no sense of at all of how this looks? To the average person on the street going, what the fuck is wrong with these people? This is not America. So yes, Joanne, I saw your comment earlier. Now that I'm done with my latest rant, I'll go back to it. I think this adds up if you say exactly what you said, which is that, and that's my thesis, that it was a provocation to justify a big France, UK, US intervention, maybe very quickly planned Plan B after the Idlib deal was struck. I think that's what happened. They freaked out at being outfoxed by Erdogan and Putin over cutting a deal over Idlib when they had all their ducks in a row to create the invasion with the white helmets and the chemical weapons and all this crap. They had it all planned out. The United States isn't like we're so fucking obvious about how we're going to handle this shit. It's not even funny because we have to prep the narrative first so everybody knows what's coming. And now I saw this afternoon on Sputnik that the Brits are evacuating the white helmets from Idlib again. Because, well, no one will believe a chemical weapons attack now. Does Kavanaugh, I know you, Rocket Man, I know you've asked this question 2 or 3 times. Does he get confirmed despite the other chaos? Yes, he does. Yeah, I think that it's terrifying to a lot of people in power that they lose all of their power. And it's so obvious in the way that the bureaucratic guys, like the top bureaucrats like Rosenstein and McCabe and Strzok and Comey and the rest of them, they all really did believe and do believe that they're trying to save America from a crazy Donald Trump who doesn't know how things are supposed to work, and that they know how the trains are supposed to run on time, and they know what the reality is because they've been living in this crap for so long. But when you live in it for that long, you don't see it for what it actually is, which is that it's a bunch of shit and it's not working. They're creatures of habit. They're who they are. And they think they have the real power because they're the ones that know how to move the paper around and get people to do what needs to be done and all of this stuff. And they think that has value and that has power and that's what real power is. It's not. It's like Pelosi and Schumer and the rest of them saying, okay, we know how to like manipulate Senate rules and House rules to get what we want in order to play this game, to get this guy the $5 million he needs to get him reelected and yada, yada, yada. All of that stuff has to happen, right? And they think that's power because they can manipulate that system. What they don't realize is that system doesn't work anymore, that system is antiquated, that system is unneeded and irrelevant, and that nobody truly in the going to a voting booth wants that system to continue, and yet they still think it has value. That's the mismatch. That's the problem. That's the echo chamber. That's them looking in the mirror all day long and not being able to see 2 feet in front of their face that everything is fucking changed, and none of it, not a bit of it, is going to last the next 4 years. Martin Armstrong keeps making the point over and over and over again. What comes after Trump? Doesn't matter whether Trump is good, bad, or indifferent. What doesn't matter what your opinion of Donald Trump is. I know most of the people in this room have a favorable opinion of Donald Trump to a greater or lesser degree. Fine. But you could be a card-carrying member of the resistance, and if you would stop and think for 4 seconds about what this thing looks like after you get rid of Trump, however you have to, do you understand how much damage you will have done to the system? Do you understand how much damage you will have done to the culture? Do you? Truly? Because if you don't understand that, then you don't understand cause and effect. Now, Marxists don't understand cause and effect because they think effects come after causes. They're fucking Marxists. That's what their fucking problem is in the first place. They're consumed with envy and they don't understand they don't understand basic relations of cause and effect. Why they're economically illiterate. Why everything they touch turns to shit. But laying all that aside, you destroy the institutions. You destroy the rule of law. You destroy what's left of the Constitution. You destroy all of that. You destroy the financial markets. You destroy your life, because your life that you bitch about, that you think is so horrible, built by white people and built by evil white patriarchal men in the tyrannical society, that you bitch about on your iPhone and your $600 Samsung smartphone. That shit ends tomorrow and you're begging in the friggin' streets. It all falls apart. As Jordan Peterson reminds us all the time, every day I get up and the lights are on, it's a goddamn miracle. Because men go to work and do shitty jobs like ensuring that the electrical lines work, that the water is on, that there's gas in the tanks. Okay, I guess so that part of the rant is over. We're at 45 minutes. I've got a couple of comments here to get to. So, Thornton, what do you think will happen with the Uyghurs in Idlib? China has something to do about them, and has to do something about them, never to get them out of there alive. I'm absolutely sure neocons planned to train them to take over China's West. Yeah, it's very possible. I'm sure that China... I don't know. I haven't really been following it. I know that it's important to China, and they were willing to finally bring to militarily assist in Idlib. We'll see. We'll see what the Russians do in trying to separate all those guys out and hand them over to whoever they need to be handed off to, I don't know, be thrown in a deep, dark hole somewhere. Arjun Kapoor, you said hello to me earlier. I am relatively well, though I think I'm a little high-strung tonight. Please share your thoughts on the recent signing of Comcasa agreement and the 2+2 meeting between the U.S. and India. I'd really like to, but I didn't follow much of it, and I hate to admit that. But too many other things have been on my radar, so and I don't want to try and fake it to make it, because that's not what this show is about. So, I don't think the 2+2 meeting between the little that I saw, the little that I understand what's happening, I don't think it went well. But I think India is continuing to try and play both sides against the middle. They're trying to keep their one foot in the door with the United States and one foot in the door with Russia, China, and the rest of the BRICS. And I think the Modi government has a particularly big scandal they've got to deal with now over the sale of a bunch of French fighters. That I think is the biggest problem that India's got facing right now. But I may be wrong about that. I was reading some stuff on Moon of Alabama about it over the weekend, but I really haven't been following it very closely, and I'm sorry I can't give you more than that. What Democrat has the best shot of winning in 2020? Against Trump? Trump survives the midterm. No Democrat has a chance. Walter Mondale, maybe. I mean, resurrect him and bring him out and stick him in a suit. I don't know. Half the guys in Deep Purple look like Walter Mondale. Every time I say the word Mondale, all I can think of is this great spoken, this great album my friend used to have of Jello Biafra. It was friggin' hysterical, man. It was just Jello Biafra going off, the dead Kennedys, going off about everything. And he was he had a whole segment on names for bands, and one of them was Mondale. This is like the early 80s. This is like the mid 80s. This thing was put out in 85 or 86 or whatever. He's like, Mondale! Half the guys in Deep Purple look like Walter Mondale. I don't know. This is, Crushed Velvet Vivisection. Those are great names. John Wayne on Acid. I remember all this shit. Oh, God, that shit was funny. Jello was definitely unique. So, there you go. These names for bands have stuck in my head for forever and a day. There are 1 million Muslims in Chinese prison camps. Think we hold that against them as part of our 4-gen war against the Chinese? It's a very good question, and I don't have an answer for it. Are mainstream Republicans complicit in the Kavanaugh hit? I think so. Certainly not in the hit itself, but in the reaction to it. I mean, Oprah 2020. I think Oprah Winfrey is watching what's happening right now. And she's watching how the left is now eating itself. How Bernie Sanders is now not woke enough for them. I don't think Oprah wants any part of that. I think Oprah makes one call to Donald Trump, who I'm sure she has on speed dial, and asks him, "What do you think?" And he'll tell her, they don't want an outsider. You an outsider? You want to change things? Party label don't matter. It doesn't matter. Not at all. I used to talk like this. Let me tell you. I don't talk like it anymore. It sounds actually really fucking odd to think about how much my accent has changed over the years. In 2007, the Dem presidential primary field was huge, and everyone assumed Hillary Clinton would be the candidate. I don't think they'll have a candidate in 2020. Tulsi Gabbard doesn't have the support of the party, and I don't think she has the support of the hardcore progressives either. I'd love to see her gain traction. I'd love for her to, if we're still dealing with the holdovers of the neocon foreign policy in 2020, I'd love for her to run against Trump to lose, but to force him into a much more anti-war, anti-empire stance and actually bring him back to where he needs to be. I'd say watch to see who the Oprah candidate was going to be. This is Joanne, which is a very smart comment. He will make a move. And his name is Dwayne Johnson. Don't laugh. The Rock could run against Trump. I don't think The Rock will run against Trump, but he's a very conscientious guy. He's got that. That's one of his 5 big pillars of personality. He's very conscientious. Go read any interview with Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And he would take it seriously. But I don't think he has the depth. Donald Trump doesn't have the depth, but at least Donald Trump's been thinking and swimming in these waters for 30 years, 40 years, his entire freaking life. So he's absorbed all of it by osmosis. Anybody, see, here's the situation. The damage they're going to do to the system between now and 2020, before Trump runs again. Okay, you have to understand that by then, no one qualified will ever want to run for president ever again. Who in the hell wants to be a Supreme Court justice in this crap? Okay? This is the point that I was trying to make earlier, and that Martin Armstrong's making, and other people need to be making. We need to be making more forcefully. Look at the damage being done. I think I just come up with the theme for this month's newsletter. Look at the damage that's being done. The institutional damage. This culture and the society is fraying at the edges. It's falling into chaos and disrepair. And it's not going to survive where we are. We have not reached peak social justice warrior yet. We have not reached peak ideologue yet. They're not done. If Obama were to back somebody, the Dems will swarm to that candidate and run like hell from the Clinton camp. Well, if they can get the Clintons tentacles out of the DNC. I don't know if they have that. Will George Soros ever turn cold? Well, eventually Darth Vader will rise up and throw him down a pit. But I ain't seeing any Luke Skywalkers around here anytime soon. Rule of man sucks. Nice, Rexman. That kind of sums up this whole rant tonight. Because that's really what we're dealing with. All of the issues we talked about tonight, every one of them, they're all a reflection of the breakdown of the rule of law. Just plain Skippy, you're the best stream on Periscope. I wish more people watched. We've been trying to build an audience for 2 years now. It's not really happening. Tonight we've hit a new record. 36 people concurrently on YouTube at a time. I used to have 200 people follow me on Periscope. And then the MAGA crowd split between the MAGA-pedes and the rational people. And the rational people all left with me, all 20 of them. And the rest of them went crazy. Thank you. Good evening, Jen Johnson. How are you? North on 60. I'm almost afraid of the answer, but if they haven't reached peak crazy, how much worse will it get? Well, we haven't gotten to putting the conservatives in ovens yet. I mean, I hate to invoke fucking Godwin's law or anything, but dude, seriously, that's where this ends. I'm hoping that Trump does become our Darth Vader. The problem is that they've got Vader bound down with a whole bunch of fucking useless admirals who he can't choke because he's not Darth Vader. He's just Donald Trump. So he can't just choke them all and like leave them on the ground and go, okay, next. Apology accepted, Captain Nita. You're in charge. Hey, second lieutenant, get up here. You're second lieutenant now. Get up here and run into that and lead those guys into that foxhole. The rest are waiting for Q drops. Right. Because, we need more political horoscope. Good evening, Christy Anderson. How are you? Thank you for being terrifyingly honest. You guys know that I don't have a filter. I don't have any other way of being. I have to be whatever's in here is going to come out, because you guys know this. As a person who studies economics, is an economist for various values of that word, for very small values of that word. The first thing you learn in economics is that garbage in equals garbage out, and that bad information transmits through the pricing system in order to give you bad prices, which gives you misallocation of capital and eventually creates booms and busts and destroys everything. And I believe very strongly in that. That's a metaphor for everything. I may be wrong about things, and I hope, and God the hell, I fucking hope I am about a great number of things. But whatever's going on in here is coming out here, because that's just the way it works, because that's how we figure out what's actually going on. If I don't know something, I'll be the first one to answer it. And if I do, dude, the nephew was born. Awesome. So leave a pic and leave a link to pics in the comments, because I'd like to see it. Because babies are awesome. Period. Babies are to be celebrated. Always. And everywhere. Doesn't matter the color. Doesn't matter the sex. Doesn't matter the parents. Doesn't matter. Babies are awesome. And they should be celebrated. Always. Thank you. I appreciate that. If you send me a pic, I will get all verklempt privately. Because I'm good at that. Buy the goat soap. My wife loves it. Oh yeah, I don't pimp the soap, but guys, I have plenty of soap in stock. If you're interested in buying soap from my wife and I, send me a DM on Twitter. Because we are now approaching the end. It is now time for me to go. And if I knew the Fred Rogers song, I think I'd sing it now. Because what else would I do after this fucking rant? Okay. You asked what comes after Trump. What comes after America? Kind of the same question now, isn't it? After Pete Crazy, how do we rebuild? One person at a time, like always. The question is not what's happening. The question is, what can you do? Always remember that. It's always about what you can do. And if all you can do is very little, well, then do very little, but do very little really fucking well. Always do everything really fucking well. Do whatever you can. Because that's how we save the world. We don't save the world by thinking big thoughts or building big buildings or wasting billions of dollars on a bad electric car. Cough, Elon Musk, cough. We do it by doing what we can do and do well. I listen to libs complain all day long about what's wrong with America and all of these horrible things, and I look at them and go, stop bitching on your iPhone about it. Get over yourself. You hate the fucking patriarchy so much, go fix it. What can you do? What can you do? As Luke Skywalker asked Rey in The Last Jedi, no, why are you here? The Resistance sent me, no, why are you here? What do you want? Why are you here? Who are you? What do you want? Where are you going? 3 most basic questions you can ask yourself. And if you believe that saving the world means pulling a John Galt, hey, I did that. I've half done that. It is just a million little things. Get out and vote? Sure. Donate your time to a local charity, even if you're not religious. Plenty of great church-based operations out there. Just finished watching The Americans, right? The girl, Paige, wanted so badly to help the world. She spent her time doing food drives, right? Even after she fell out with the church and saw it, didn't, got seduced by her mom into the spy game. Still wanted to do the food drives, though. Still wanted to feed people. Still wanted to help them out where they could. You have skills. Everybody has skills. You donate your time as a tutor, as a mentor, as a this, whatever it is. You all have skills. We don't know what those skills are. We don't know how good we are at them until we challenge ourselves to be better. Am I voting for Rick Scott and DeSantis, or am I not encouraging them? Given that I need to get rid of fucking Bill Nelson, I'll probably vote tactically. And Gillum is not acceptable. And I know these 2 guys, so I'll vote for them. But Paige does do right in the end. Don't like The Last Jedi. Well, by the time I get done, Rocket Man, with the project that I'm working on now, which will probably take me the rest of the year to finish, but I've got a big thing that I'm working on The Last Jedi. I talked about it a little bit on Halsey the other night, but I'm gonna go into some really serious detail on The Last Jedi and why I think the backlash has been so difficult for people to process. And it'll probably take, like I said, probably the rest of the year to figure out, to get it all done. I've already written like 3,000 words worth of script for it, and I'm not even past the halfway point of the first segment that I want to talk about. But we'll see. I may be able to change your mind on that. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'll continue to say it, that The Last Jedi is maybe the best Star Wars film ever made. Except for Star Wars, because that gets a pass. But it's arguably as good as The Empire Strikes Back. For different reasons, for completely different reasons. All of which are important and germane to today. But I'll talk about that later. All right, so if you guys like what you heard tonight, give a like and subscribe down below, please. Retweet this out to as many people as you can and spread the word. If you liked what you heard, you can follow my work over at goldgoatsandguns.com. You can also follow my work and support it over at Patreon. Have I ever watched the Clone Wars or Rebels? Both of which are freaking awesome. It's like asking me, have I not watched Star Wars 250 times? Yes, of course I have. All right. So, you guys have a great night. This was fun. We should do this again. By the way, Solo comes out on Blu-ray tomorrow, and if you haven't seen Solo, you should watch it because it's a fucking blast. With some of the best characters, some of the best character sketches done in all of the Star Wars universe. All right, you guys have a great evening. You take care. You be well. Figure out what you can do and keep your stick on the ice.